On session. It is 5:01. All committee members are present. We'll go around the, well, actually, others in attendance will be on file in the clerk's office. We're going to take up item 2, review bid for the Mead Field Pickleball Court project and consider award of the contract to the low qualified bidder.
Yes, so we solicited bids for 6 pickleball courts on the west side of town, next to the splash pad at Mead Field. And so we had 5, I believe we had 5 prime bidder plan holders. However, we did only get the one bid from Pember. You should all have that handout on the our bid tab for it. So we had estimated 176,000, nearly 180,000 there. But we did get the one bid from Pember for 205,000 approximately. So from what I understand, this is a project where we have grant money in it, and we are committed to apply a certain amount of the city money toward the project. But assuming the funds are there and that's covered, because like I said, we had, believe it was in the original packet, that the total anticipated project cost for everything, so the pickleball courts, the playground that will also go there, that we were looking at approximately 444,000 that would cover that all. With this bid coming in from Pember, that is approximately 25,000 or so more than what we were anticipating, that puts us over that amount. So from the engineering department standpoint, as far as recommending a bidder, and that it's a reputable contractor, we are recommending awarding the contract and approving the bid for the amount of $205,659.50. The only thing I would open up to discussion is if there is any question on, the funds to cover that extra $25,000. Another option, which I failed to mention, is that we were proposing shade structures as part of the project, and I believe those came in at around $30,000. So those don't have to be done immediately; those can be done at a later date. But it's just a matter of the funds to cover that additional $25,000. And I don't know, Tim, if you're able to speak to any of that.
Sure. The project is, obviously we have a $200,000 legacy grant to fund this project, and then the balance, the matching funds, would come out of the park outlay account. So they have sufficient funds in that outlay account, but it's a matter of whether the Park and Rec Commission wants to review with the $25,000 additional if they'd want to do the shade structures or something like that. So I'll probably have to connect with Jake Klingforth and kind of see what the commission might want to do about the shade structures in lieu of the $25,000 overrun. I don't know, Dean, if you have a comment on that.
Well, we have because we'd already, at Parks and Rec, we'd already basically approved the money. We knew that was, the budget was coming in already. But I don't know about this. I'll talk to Jake too. But just want to confirm though, that Park and Rec, is that all? We're okay on the outlay, right? We have the funds in the outlay right now,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And then Park and Rec budget primarily comes from the room tax, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. It will probably have to come back to them then, I would assume, right? Because it's a different number.
Well, I'll work with Jake and put everything, because we had the bid for the playground equipment, things like that. We also had some in-kind internal work to get the pickleball courts ready for the contractor to come in. So I'll get those numbers together and I'll look at it with Jake and,
We meet Monday, so.
okay.
I'm a little confused as to how this was bid out. You said there were 5 bidders, but then only one gave a bid, or did I mishear you?
Right, no, you didn't. So we had, on Quest CDN, which is our website that we use for advertising and bidding out our projects, we had 5 plan holders that were prospective bidders. They take out plans, they pay for that, but they're not obligated to bid. And so it's kind of, gives you a good idea of how much interest there is in the project, but there's no guarantee they're actually going to bid. And so you might have 5 or 6 prospective bidders, but nobody bids on it. In this case, we had like 5 plan holders that could have been prime bidders, but only one ended up actually bidding, and that was Pember.
And how long was this bid open for?
We advertise typically about a month before we open them. I think we're required to do about, I think it's 2 weeks before the bid. What we also do is we'll send out, we are required to put it in the paper on 2 separate occasions. And like I said, we put it on Quest, which is a site where, many contractors can go to and look at. But in addition to that, we will also send out a invite to bid to contractors that are local, that are good contractors, just to kind of give them a heads up that, hey, this is coming up. And, if they miss the advertisement, we'll actually email it right to them and try to get as many bids on it as we can.
And when will this project be done?
Well, we're hoping to have it done, I believe by the end of the summer, August, September, that the work would all be completed by.
All right, thanks.
I got one question. So if we were to have completed our end of it and got it out to bid, let's say earlier in spring, in those scenarios, do we have more likely chance to get more responses, or is just the way it goes? Because my assumption is, obviously, you get into construction season and then they fill out their jobs, and that's why there might have been 5 and they pulled back. If we would have been earlier,
Right.
The
Yeah,
grant wasn't available earlier.
the grant wasn't.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Correct?
generally, though, you are right. The earlier, the better. What we'll see sometimes as well is that you still might get a lot of contractors bidding on it, but you might not get the best prices. They might have their schedules booked up, and so they'll give you a higher bid. Sometimes they'll take out a set of plans with a certain idea that it might be a certain type of project, and maybe it's slightly different than what they anticipated. But yeah, we could have gone out earlier. We basically, we had our engineering department, getting plans out for our work, for our guys to get done in the field, like Lincoln Street and 9th Street we got coming up this year, and get our permitting done. And as soon as we had that done, this was the next the fire to put out. So yeah, we got it done as quickly as we could, and I guess it's hard to predict as far as how it's going to affect you on the timing.
Tim, do you know when we were awarded that grant? That was pretty recent. Because Jake applied for it.
I think this,
It was like 2 meetings ago.
huh?
Seems like it was like 2 meetings ago that Jake was working on that grant.
Well, you might be referring to another one he might be working on. This one, I think, was awarded maybe last fall.
Oh, I'm getting it mixed up with the one we're working with the school on.
This is the one that's with the school.
But I thought Legacy didn't finalize the grant until
Well, I know there was
Jake
some,
had his fingers crossed on whether we're going to get it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I know this with, you know, because this is in cooperation with the school, and then they had some things with their part of it, and I know that they had to go back to their board for some things, and that might be where you're talking about is the actual finalization of
Yeah,
the
okay.
actual grant.
I'm pretty sure we got the grant fairly recently. I know
Mr.
what it
Chair?
closed.
Thank you. I have just a couple questions. You probably answered it. Where is this company from? Are they from around the area?
I believe Pember's from Chippewa Falls or Eau Claire area, I want to say. They're local, they're in Wisconsin.
Has the city ever had them here before? Or?
Yes, it's been a few years, I think, since we've had them. They're concrete contractors, so we've had them on our, our reconstruction projects, doing curb and gutter and sidewalk and those sorts of things.
And you were comfortable with their work, though? I
Yes.
assume. Okay.
Yes, yep, they're a reputable contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Now, the engineer estimate and the bid from Pember are separate. Correct.
I'm sorry, so.
You
yes,
had
they're-
mentioned the $205,000 bid from Pember, but on the sheet we got, it has another column for the engineering estimate.
Correct, yep. So before we bid it out, we estimated what we thought it might come in at, and Pember came in with approximately, 30,000 or 25,000 more than what we were anticipating.
Okay. I would just like to point out again that this is from room tax, so I won't make Tim explain it, but essentially these room tax dollars are collected to be used for these purposes, not in other city areas, and I think this is a great one. That splash pad is a popular place over there. It's a well-visited place, and the pickleball courts on over at Witter Park on 8th Street are getting a little full, so it'll be nice to be able to provide that for the community too. So with that, I'll make a motion to award the contract Pember Companies Incorporated for $205,659.50. We have a motion by me, second by Patrick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Item 3, review and consider utility easement on city-owned parcel 34-02466 for electrical service line from CWP Co. to 11 West Jackson Street.
So I can give a quick background on the project. Everybody should have a handout. I believe Joe might have emailed this out this morning to everybody. I don't think it was in the original packet. But as long as we're talking about it, this was from our city assessor, and we wanted to update the ballpark cost for the easement, should we decide to go ahead and do that. I believe the number that was in the packet was $1.25 a square foot. After our assessor looked at it, he thought a number of $1.65 a square foot would be a little more appropriate. And so given the area of the easement that was laid out in the packet, given that layout and that approximate area, came up with a value of around $6,100 for that. That being said, so I guess I'll get into the reason for all of it. From what I understand, the electrical to the river block building was knocked out, or there was an issue with it. They currently have temporary electric that I believe is running overground and serving the building right now. But the hope is to get obviously a more permanent solution. And the thought would be that a new electric line would be directional drilled across Jackson Street through city property to access the river block building. And so, like I said, the easement that you saw in the packet is a first look at it. That is something that you know, the size of it, the width of it, the location of it is, could be up for discussion and could be looked at. So, given that, I guess that is something that we can discuss, but just that the location of the easement, the size of the easement, the cost per square foot, any additional provisions that we want to provide, you know, conditions of doing the work, that is all to be discussed. Another possibility that could be looked at is that the utility line could be laid out more to one side of the property, so maybe closer to the river block building. So instead of taking a large swath the way it's drawn in right now, that maybe we could narrow the easement and maybe move it more to the west, closer to the river block building. So that's another possibility. There's many ways you could look at it. Typically, when we do a storm sewer easement or an underground pipe easement, usually it's 10 feet each direction, about 20 feet. And that's based on the depth of you know, the piping. So this would not be very deep. I would presume 3 or 4 feet, maybe. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be as wide. So I guess I'll leave it at that. The committee can discuss on any questions they have or anything that they might want to add on how it's laid out. And I don't know, Mark, if you have any comments to add or anything at all from your end.
Good evening, Mark Anderson. I'm the resources manager for Consolidated Water Power Company. Nick did a good job of kind of laying out what the plans are as to why we're apologize. Anyways, so we've already secured the directional boring permit through the engineering department in order to go under Jackson Street itself. Our preference obviously would be to make a straight line directional bore from the location, essentially where the concrete wall, if you can envision over by the old stone building, you know, for Consolidated headquarters, where that concrete wall kind of meets the road is where the junction box that we have, we're bringing power out of the powerhouse that will ultimately feed over, or that does feed over to the river block. The intent was to, you know, have a directional bore that was kind of straight line to a new cabinet that the county is purchasing or has already purchased that would be placed adjacent to the cable vault that they currently have that feeds into the river block itself. So the preference obviously is to have a straight line directional bore, not to have to zigzag anything, you know, if you understand what I'm saying there. The 40-foot or the 20-foot at either side of the bore itself, that really is open. I mean, obviously, to your discretion. We really were not really sure how far to go on either side, so we picked, you know, just based on some of our practices with some of our utility lines, 20 feet either side of center. And that could be adjusted a little bit as necessary. The plan is to have boring 2 4-inch HPDV or HDPE lines, so the high density plastic lines. One of that 4-inch line, or one 4-inch line, would carry the primary power into the building. The second line would serve as essentially a spare, a backup. And then there, right alongside that would be also a 2-inch line that we would have our fiber and other cabling going through there that would allow for the metering between the river block and back to our system for billing purposes. So subject to any other questions that you might have.
So this is going to be boring. This isn't going to disrupt the road.
Correct.
surface at all.
It will not disrupt anything.
Is there a different idea from engineering versus what your preference is? You said you would prefer not
I'm
to
just going
zigzag.
based on Nick's earlier comment of possibly, you know, trying to straddle the boundary, if you want to, you know, the property line closer to the river block itself. That would cause us to have to essentially move the line up away from where the current junction box is located and then bore under the road to come in at that angle versus, I mean, I'm not a directional bore expert. I don't know if they're able to do that type of a turn underground. So, you know, my thought was just straight is better. To be quite honest, that was the only reason I made that comment.
Yeah, so just to speak on the directional drilling, there is some ability to turn, to snake around things. Obviously, you can't make super tight turns.
Right.
Depends on the pipe that you're pulling through the borehole. So, yeah, there is some ability there. But, yeah, it's, I don't happen to remember any, you know, actual radius numbers or anything like that. But, yeah, there's definitely some ability that you could, as you're crossing Jackson, that you could kind of put a curve to it and kind of get it where you want it. But it's you know, just something that we'd have to look at.
Sure.
So you have to look at it. So do we want a directional bore, as he said, might be more preferable, or do we want to have it curved around?
Right, I guess.
Can we get this map up on the screen? Is that anyone?
Yeah, I guess I don't. Honestly, though, my opinion is that you know, given the width of Jackson Street, that there would be enough room to kind of snake it, and at least get it closer to the river block building, that you wouldn't have to straight line it. I did take a look at the utilities before that we had running through the street. I mean, obviously, you got to watch out for manholes, catch basins, and those sorts of things. But given the length of the bore, that I'm not sure exactly where we're coming from on the north side of Jackson Street. But even then, you know, if we're in the general vicinity, is kind of the way that red line is laid out. If it's laid out straight, I would think you'd have enough room to kind of get it at least a little closer to that west line, and maybe even paralleling closely to that west line where it abuts the river block building. You know, and another option too is that, you know, given some of the unknowns with the radius, you know, how tight you can turn it, you could just give some extra width to the easement as well. You know, that give you a little more room to operate in that area.
Okay, we have in front of us, consider a utility easement on the city-owned parcel. It has no specific recommendation. So,
No, I guess
do
the
you want to
intent
add
was-
one, or?
No, the intent was to leave it as open to the committee as you know, any conditions, anything from your end as far as what engineering is recommending. From what I understand, the layout that, up until today, the layout that you see in the handout, that's kind of where it was left in initial discussions. But I guess now that we're talking about it right now, I'm just giving you my opinion on what could be done as you're crossing Jackson Street. That, you know, if you had an easement that was, say, you know, 20 feet wide, and abutting, you know, that west line with the river block building, that you'd have enough room to make that work.
If I could interject one thing too, I mean, when Joe and I when I was talking with Joe this last month, one thing that he mentioned that you might be interested, I mean, we would be more than willing to, after the bore is put in, and whether it gets snaked a little bit or a straight line, would be to, I mean, we'd get that line surveyed in, and we would make that survey map as a part of the recorded document, the easement itself. So I don't know if that helps at all, but at least just to give you a firm understanding that, or a clear understanding that it'd be recorded as to where that line actually exists for future purposes.
Do you want us to approve the easement and with no conditions outside of what's in the agreement, and would that satisfy both of you gentlemen?
Yeah, I think so. I don't, looking at the property and the work that we'd be doing, I don't know that there's, I don't believe there's any, the vault, none of that stuff would be on city property, is that
No, the
right?
vault presently sits on Mead-Witter property. The cabinet will sit on Mead-Witter property. Ruben Ruben Van Tassel has already secured permission from Mead-Witter Foundation to site the cabinet on the property, their property. Obviously, it's in their best interest, of course, so it feeds into the river block. So it really, there would be no other property that would be located on city property, or
Sure.
the city parcel itself.
So given that there's no really structures, utility structures on the city property, and that because it's directional drilled, you're not really disturbing anything, so there's no restoration requirements or anything like that, I think it'd be a pretty basic easement document as far as conditions are concerned.
Thank you. If, we'll go, I'm going to make a motion to approve the utility easement agreement. If it needs to be amended for any reason, it'll have to come back. So I'll make a motion to approve the utility easement on city-owned parcel 34-02466 for electrical service line from CWP Co. to 11 West Jackson Street.
I'll second it.
Motion by Cattenaw, second by Veneman. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry. How would you like to vote, Patrick? Item 4, consider approval of the 2024-2025 retail Class A intoxicating liquor, Class A fermented malt beverages, Class B intoxicating liquor, Class B fermented malt beverages, and Class C wine licenses. Consider sending notices of non-renewal or denial for those licenses who are not qualified to hold a license because of delinquencies or other disqualifications and other reasons for non-renewal.
Okay, so we have received all of the applications in. We're waiting for payment from 5 businesses, but they have until the 16th to do so. I checked with the finance department, and there are no delinquencies for taxes. So I would recommend approval, but if somebody doesn't pay by the deadline for payment, then we would still need to send out the letters of non-renewal. So that would need to be part of the motion.
Questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the licenses for the 5 applicants pending receival of payment.
And are you including sending out notices of non-renewal if we don't receive what we need to receive?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Would you add that then?
Well, because I have to have direction to send those letters
If
So-
you don't receive the payment.
if we don't receive the payment, or there are 1 or 2 forms that are still needing to be submitted, but it's,
I'll amend my motion to approve the licenses pending receival of payment and by the 16th, I believe you said. And without, notices will be sent if that payment is not received. Okay.
I'll second. Motion by Veneman, seconded by Cattenaw. All those in favor, say aye. Item 5, consider closing the following streets and suspending the open container ordinance for these streets and adjoining sidewalks for the city's 2024 4th of July event from 3 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, July 4th, 2024, or the July 4th fireworks rain date. 2nd Street from East Jackson Street to Mead Street. Mead, Locust, Witter, Pine, Walnut, Maple, and Birch Streets from 2nd Street South to 3rd Street South. Oak Street from 2nd Street North to 3rd Street North. 1st Street North from East Jackson Street to 2nd Street North. Grand Avenue from 3rd Street to 3rd Avenue. 1st Avenue from West Grand Avenue to Chase Street, Johnson, and Goggins Street from 1st Avenue South to 3rd Avenue.
Is this the same streets that we do this every year with? Or any
Yes.
additions
Yes,
or-
they are
any
the same.
additions or changes?
No. And also, I didn't hear you say the 2nd Avenue South from West Grand Avenue to Johnson Street? I might have just missed that.
I read everything
Okay.
that's on the agenda.
Yeah.
What were those streets?
Hold on. I might have missed one on here. Just a second. Okay, I did miss one. This would also be including 2nd Avenue South from West Grand Avenue to Johnson Street.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve in addition to that last street that Jennifer just added.
So we have a motion to consider closing the following streets as listed in the agenda, including
Was it Second Avenue to,
2nd Avenue South from West Grand Avenue to Johnson Street.
2nd Avenue South from West Grand to Johnson Street. I will second it. We have a motion by Veneman, second by Catno. All those in favor say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Yes.
Item 6, audit of the bills. Did you email check number?
Yes, those went out with the agenda.
I didn't see that.
So the meeting notice email went out, and then I forwarded, okay.
Motion to approve checks number 21648 to 21908.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Veneman. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Abstaining.
Okay. We have 2 ayes, 1 abstention. Motion passes. Item 7, set.
Excuse me, Mr.
Sure, go
Chairman. Could you have the totals in your minutes, please? I think that it was something like over 5 million. You just made the motion to pay everything. That's fine. I think they all were paid anyway, but would that be possible, maybe?
The,
Money you paid out?
it's in the packet.
Yeah, I
in the
know it
check.
is, yeah. Well, whatever.
Tim, is there any reason
I mean, I
we
think the record
couldn't
would
do that?
reflect that that was the amount that's approved of those checks. Do we want it reflected in the minutes? Is that what you're requesting?
Well, I was, but whatever you want to do.
Tim, is there any reason that we wouldn't be able to put the amount in there?
Oh, yeah, sure, we can put that amount in there.
Okay.
You know, in the future, we could sit there and say, approve check X to Y for a total of this, so. But the total for these checks is $5,412,087.95.
Can you repeat that, please?
$5,412,087.95.
Thank you.
Being that we've already voted on this, I'll have those referred to the minutes in the packet that lists those check numbers and the total amount. Item 7 is set next meeting date. The first Tuesday in July is the 2nd. If anybody has any plans for the 4th of July and isn't going to be here, we can move that one out. Does the week of July 4th, July 2nd conflict with anybody's schedule? Going once?
I'm good.
Twice. All right. So the next meeting will be the first Tuesday of July, July 2nd at 5 p.m. Item 8 is adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Motion to adjourn by Veneman, seconded by Catton. All those in favor, respond with aye. Aye. Motion passed. 3 ayes, 0 nays. Meeting is adjourned at